Hi, everyone. In this episode of Points on the Circle, you get to have an opportunity to meet Barry Spector. All of you who have ever said to me, "Who's that guy that drives you around for Shabbat in the home?" Now you get a chance to meet him. Enjoy. Barry Spector, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I have missed you. It was great seeing you yesterday, running into you.
It's a reason to walk outside because you never know what you'll run into.
What you'll run into, things instead of who, what. I appreciate that. That's very. um, so I'm really glad you agreed to be on here because I want everyone to get a sense of what happens when we get together, which is usually a heck of a lot of fun. So I need to start by asking you, it's now probably been 9 years that you have been my driver for Shabbat in the home. Tell everyone how that started and why that started, and be honest.
Well, I saw a real opportunity to spend time with you.
Oh, you're so full of it, but go ahead.
No, no, are you kidding?
Totally.
I mean, I love. I'm a driver.
Uh-huh.
I'll always drive, and I saw an opportunity to spend time with you and help you out because I know how difficult it is to like get in and out of a car because I've done that for work plenty of times. I always said I'd like a driver someday. And so I thought I'd be your driver and I'd get to meet people in Hakafah along the way.
Yeah,
So
is that what you're telling yourself now? It's amazing how the truth evolves because what you told me the first couple years was the real reason is that you were hosting when you didn't want to be there for it.
no,
That's what
that
you
wasn't
told me.
until like the fourth year, I don't think.
Oh, okay. So well, I've loved the time with you because it's just great. I love having the water, the comfortable, it was before in my car, before I had the tush warmers, and you always had the tush warmers. So that's what inspired me to get it myself.
Actually got a different car in the interim and I had to get one with the seat warmers because otherwise I didn't know if you'd come with me.
There you go. So we started, we've known each other now 20 years. And
Really?
yeah, really. What really got me to really appreciate you, I mean, there's lots of things over the years, and I've really treasured our times together, and I think you know that, but I don't want to assume you do, so
I
I'm
feel the
telling you
same.
that.
Yes.
Was around the death of your father, and how long has that been now? 12 years?
1996, 14.
No, that's your brother. Your father wasn't
Oh,
96.
2006. Yeah, it was
Two,
everything was in us. Sorry.
yeah,
Maybe it
yeah,
was 14 years.
yes, 14 years. What I what I saw, the way, the loving and the caring and the sense of commitment to your father through those last stages of his life were so incredibly raw and honest and touching. And I came to appreciate how much you live that ideal of honoring your parents. That's when I really started going, wow, this guy is something really special. So I want to start, I mean, I knew that beforehand. I want to start with, just talk to me about the relationship with your dad growing up. And I mean, this isn't therapy, but this is just
It
that
could
sense.
be. I mean, might as well.
What was that like, and what was that connection like? And for those who don't know, his father Sam was the crossing guard on Lake Avenue in Wilmette forever for the schools. Talk to us about that.
Well, the whole thing, I could go back to when I was a little kid, just to give a little background, is that I had a brother, Arnie, who was 2 years older, 18 months older than I was. And it's hard to, he's died in 1996. And, when he was young, he was always sick. He was actually the first open heart patient at Children's Memorial Hospital.
Hmm.
He had closed heart surgery when he was a little kid. Then he had the first open heart surgery at Children's. So he was always like living on borrowed time in his mind. And my parents, my mother used to say that, very few parents have a child and, they look for them to grow up, whereas she was waiting for my brother to die.
Hmm.
And so this whole thing was over our family. And I sort of was the second one. I got lost in the shuffle. And so all the attention was on my brother, deservedly so. And I just sort of could do whatever I wanted to do. But I always lived my life trying not to make any trouble because they had their hands full with him
Hmm.
throughout. And so My parents got divorced when I was a senior in college in Champaign. And when I came back home, my brother was getting married to another Jackie, and my mom moved out, and I had there's a train going by.
Yeah, I hear.
I had to make a choice. Do I move back in with my father, or do I go out on my own? And I was afraid that if I would have moved back in with my father when I was 22 years old or whatever I was, that I'd never get out. That would be like my life where I'd be taking care of him.
Mm.
And so I moved out. And the funny thing about it is he didn't need anybody to take care of him about anything. And he could do everything on his own because that's just the way he was. And he told me later on that he always kept so busy. He was always working. He was always had a second job. He was always doing something because if he stopped to think about the situation that he was living in, it would be too depressing.
Mm.
And so he kept busy the whole way. So after my brother died, there was a big shift in his world because a parent lost a son. And I think my father and I became even closer. I mean, we were close. We became even closer after that. And then what really happened is after Jackie and I got married, he loved Jackie and we were very close then. We'd all get together. But then after Arnie died, he was so depressed that, it took him years to get out of it. And part of what got him out of it was becoming the crossing guard in Wilmette.
Hmm.
And his purpose was to make sure that our kids got across the street. But he became Grandpa Sam to the neighborhood. And so, eventually he lived on Sheridan Road in Chicago. He'd take the bus from Sheridan in Hollywood. He'd take a Sheridan Road bus to Loyola, get on the L at Loyola to Howard, get on the L at Linden, take the L to Linden from there, then get on the bus to our house. And we'd come down in the morning at 7:00 in the morning. The coffee would be made. He'd be sitting at the table, reading the paper and eating ice cream. And this would be like every day. And so, every day. And it was great. He knew like when not to come, but he was always there in the mornings before work. And the ice cream was just like too much.
I forgot that he had lived in Chicago's Borscht Belt, which is that row of condos up in Edgewater,
he was
right?
in the 4+1 on the west side of the street.
So he was on the poor side of the street. I'm sorry, he didn't get the view. I had forgotten that as well. But he was still part of the Borscht Belt. I mean, it was such the Jew, and it still is, but less and less, right? It's the Jews who are the old, hard time, real tough Jews that should have been in New Yorkers but weren't. Right. That's my perception of who lived there for forever. And that's kind of who and what he was in my dream of him. Now, you grew up in Rogers Park?
I grew up in East Rogers Park. I didn't know there was a difference till I went to Max and Benny's one day and they had like a special thing for East Rogers Park and West Rogers Park. I grew up in East Rogers Park, which was more apartments. West Rogers Park was houses.
Yeah.
And so to me, that was a big thing. Yeah. I went to Sullivan High School.
Real blue collar.
Yes.
That's what I thought. So what did your father do? What was his profession?
When I was young, he worked in a plastics factory. He worked for a guy. He worked for one guy who owned different businesses. And one was a plastics company. They used to make like rain hats and book covers and stuff like that. He was in the warehouse. He was like a warehouse guy. And then they went to a book bindery. He went to work for a guy, the same guy owned a book bindery. And so he'd come with books for everybody. He never read one, but he'd pass them out to anybody who wanted one. And so he retired then at like about 70 years old.
Wow. I find it's often that when you have a situation of trauma in a family growing up, that the younger ones rebel, and you did the opposite. Right. That's what you said. You decided, and that's. Tell me about that. What went into that? I mean, it wasn't a decision. It was just something that you did. But why did you feel so strongly about not making waves?
I saw how tough it was for my parents. It's like my brother was really sick. He had multiple heart surgeries, and money was tight. Everything was like a struggle. And I just, kept a real low profile. I mean, there's like I had lunch with like a friend, of who I grew up with, and her mother was my mother's buddy. They were actually the beatniks on the block. They were kind of fun. And she used to say that, my mother used to walk around going, "Where's Arnie? Where's Arnie? Where's Arnie? Who's Barry?" It's like that kind of thing. So I was able to keep like a real low profile. And
And
actually,
that,
so did Jackie. That's why we get along so well.
but that fascinates me about you only because here you are keeping a low profile because you don't want to make waves. And you made a life out of actually fighting for the rights of people who were making waves in society, specifically one of the go-to defense attorneys in the city. Tell me about that. It's not a conflict, but that's kind of an irony of you, right? Keeping a low profile yourself growing up, and then when you're in the professional world, working for those rights who are out there. So talk a little bit about that.
I never really saw that as a conflict for me. And um, I mean, I just was always for the underdog. I mean, that's sort of like where that came from. I was always for the underdog. I was a Cub fan. I had to be for the underdog. And, I was the goalie playing, hockey and broomball. So I was always defending. And so I was fortunate enough to fall into a profession. And I started when I was in law school doing it as a student. And, I just, and part of it really was that when I graduated from law school, I had to, start paying back my loans and stuff. And the thought of like doing a resume just was too much for me. So I hung out a shingle in like the worst neighborhood I could find in Chicago at Howard Street, and it went from there. So,
And
um,
so looking back over that, the arc of your career, how did it work for you? How did it resonate with you? Did you start to own it more? Did you become more cynical about it? How did that play out?
he's cynical. What are you kidding? Um,
Okay, call it what you want.
you know, um, you know, I started out in the Howard Street Law Clinic, right next door to the Howard Theater, 1629 Howard. The door is still there. It wasn't even an office. They put a door like in an alley, and it was like the walls were like brick and they had like a storefront.
Hmm.
And I opened up a storefront law clinic. You know, Evanston police, Chicago police used to chase people into my office. And at some point after being there about a year and a half or 2 years, I met some, LaSalle Street lawyers at a seminar. And I just connected with this one guy who I moved into his office. And it just went from there. It all comes down to who you connect with.
Hmm.
And the people I connected with who my mentors growing up in the business were like, big guys at the time. They represented like, like in like Fred Hampton,
Hmm.
and the offices were broken into by the FBI, during the Chicago 7 trial. And I was just like a little kid, but I was with the people who taught me how to do things the right way. And I mean, I think about some of the cases I handled when I had no experience, thinking, how in the world did I do that? But I can't believe it's like 40 plus years now, and it's just been, it's been very rewarding. I like to be the go-to guy. I like to be the guy that people call when they're in trouble, because me, if I can help them with their troubles, it's sort of like I don't have to worry about my own as much. And so it's a win-win situation for me.
Is there a certain kind of case, not a specific case, unless you want to mention those, I'm not asking for that. Over the arc of your career, was there a certain type of case that got you riled up more, got you excited more than others?
I mean, the first two that come to mind, I mean, I don't remember the first one, but I remember doing a hearing in Skokie where I really thought I should have won. On the first floor, room 106 in Skokie, it was a preliminary hearing, and I was so angry when I lost and I walked right across the hall and had him take my blood pressure at the nurse's station, like right across the hall. So that one got me mad. Another one was just, it was like a little DUI case where I thought the judge was just so wrong that it got me so aggravated that I kept bringing it up just to show her that she was wrong. And, but as far as like the big cases go, I mean, there's one case now that I'm involved with that was a double murder, death penalty case originally. And the guy was convicted, he got life, and now it's being reviewed by the Torture Commission because he was like a Burge victim during those days. And it's like, while that case was going on, I was aggravated for sure. I thought we should have won things that we didn't. But, I could see the big picture and understood like, there's an appeals process and things will work out and maybe this guy will, get some relief. But, it's like, I'm, just asking that question as far as getting riled up at the moment. I mean, I've lost so many nights sleep, I can't tell you, how many nights I'd go to bed, I'd lay down and I'd go, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that, around the house. And then I'm coaching the softball team and these parents are driving me crazy. And I just got to get a lineup and make everybody happy. Oh yeah, and I got a death penalty case I got to do. Yeah, have a good night.
So good. It's suburban mothers and fathers that got you really from not sleeping and not the death row guys. That's fantastic. I'm sure your guys that you were protecting would have loved to have heard that. It's north suburban parents.
Death penalty guys are always the last ones, but the suburban parents, are you kidding?
Oh my God.
I can tell you, Bruce, there's only one thing better than representing a New Trier kid.
What?
That's representing a Northwestern kid.
Now remember, people are going to be listening to this and watching this. I hope that's okay.
It's true, because they're, they get it. I've had Northwestern parents come in my office and they're so pissed that their kid got arrested for selling drugs in the dorm. And the father's like, I got to take you home. I'm taking you out of here. You can't be here. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this father doesn't want this kid home, and this kid doesn't want to go home, and I'm like, let's see if he can prove it. Let's see if he can turn it around and make it happen. And so,
So I'm hearing two parts of your job. And I want to come to the second part. I want to do the second part first, actually, and then I'll come back to the first part. And the amount of, just from that little dynamic and what you and I have talked about, and for the record, people, in terms of attorney privilege, Barry has not usurped any of that or abrogated any of that, I promise. But just in the general, right, this idea that a lot of the work that you do is not just about the judicial system or not about the guilt or innocence of the particular person. And we're going to get back to that in a second, but it's really about the dynamic and the needs of the family at the moment and being not a social worker, but being, call it what you want. So say a little bit about that.
I'm an attorney and counselor at law, and I take that part very seriously. And I can really say that through it, as I got more experienced, I learned how important it was to spend more time talking, just, building up, confidence and honesty as far as like their cases with the client. And a lot of times with like the kids, especially the North Shore kids, but any kid who I would represent, I'd want the parents involved if the kid wanted the parents involved. The kid was the client. The parents were always the ones paying. And the parents thought that they had the right to know what was going on. And I would be very clear with them that they didn't. This is the client, because if your kid can't be honest with me as to like what's going on, I can't help them as much as I could. And so, I mean, I'd be calling a client like 11:30 at night when I was walking the dog, just to connect with them and see where they were and like that. But there's a lot of more hand-holding now that, than I did when I was in the first 15 years of my career, probably. And and I know how important that is for everybody. I mean, it's
Is that
better for me too. So
so? Is the hand holding you do now more about you, or more about how society has evolved, more about the neediness? What is that?
I think it's more about me recognizing how important it is.
Hmm.
I think it was always important, but either I had too many cases where I couldn't spend that much time with one individual person, or I didn't understand like how important it was. We used to call it desk side manner. You know, how's your desk side manner?
Hmm.
And some guys I had to work with, they'd say, just, get a client in, get them out. You don't want to spend any time with them. And I'd be in there for like an hour and a half, just trying to make the connection.
Hmm.
Because if someone doesn't trust me to help them, and no matter what those, North Shore parents thought, the death penalty cases and the criminal cases always took a priority in my life. But they were clients too.
Yeah.
And they just seemed to be more interested in their kids because, unfortunately, they recognized the damage that a criminal conviction or even an arrest can have on a kid's career going forward, life
Hmm.
going forward. So
So the other part of this then is that part that got you riled up, right? And that is the two times you mentioned you were mad at the judge because you knew that, and looking back on it, you still think they were wrong, so you're still
oh,
riled about it. Okay, so going back then to the defense attorney's side here, you've got that counseling side that we just talked about, but when it came to your passion, what I'm hearing, this is a question, when it comes to your passion about you doing what you're doing, it was more about the system. Is that you were there because you wanted to make sure the system worked? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
I wanted to be right. I
Well,
wanted,
that's just you being you. But I wanted. I'm.
well, the system, I'm playing within a system. I'm working within a system. And my obligation is to do everything I can within the rules. And I'll put my toe over the line if I have to do what I think. If no one's going to stop me, I'm going to keep going until I get stopped. But it's like I need it to be fair. If I think that it's not fair for someone, and I've seen so many things that aren't fair, I mean, that I've seen so many things that aren't fair that I just have to like deal with in the moment and do the best I can against a stacked deck. And my big complaint about the Innocence Project, for example, I mean, I think what they do is fabulous, but my big complaint about the Innocence Project and all, and I know there's other congregants who are involved with that who I'm friendly with to the Hakatha. They get to cherry pick the cases that they want to deal with.
So
And I'm in the moment.
for
I'm on the
everybody,
front.
the Innocence Project is working to get people off of death row who have been whom they think and are convinced are not guilty of their crimes. I just want to get that in there.
Right.
Right. So they get to cherry pick and you don't. So define. So again, for you, and I'm not trying to do an either or here. It is about the system. It's about the client. It's about the counseling. It's about all of that. And it's about a sense of fairness and your sense of justice and what is right and wrong. What are some of the things that you have seen in general that get you really riled up that's been unfair? What do you mean by unfair? I know what you mean, but I want people to have a sense of what you mean by unfair. Is this a
I mean,
race question? Is it an economic issue? What is it? What are you talking about?
I'm not talking about an economic issue because if I'm involved with a case, I'm involved with a case. And
I didn't mean that about the money you get. I meant in terms of economics about people who find themselves ending up in the court
they
system.
got to be able to afford to hire me.
Yeah.
They got to be able to afford a private attorney to begin with. But to me, one of my thinking about another time I got so angry is when a police officer would testify at a hearing that something was in plain view, for example. My guy would say, I mean, I swear to God, a guy told me that he was arrested and they pulled some drugs out of the crack of his ass. And the police report, they said that he's telling me they took a pencil and they're like going, scraping down here and they're like doing that. And the police report's like, he dropped it on the ground.
Mm.
And it's like, I mean, the guy wouldn't make this up, And so to me, it's the false testimony by police officers just to make a case when there was nothing I could do to refute that.
Mm.
I mean, that would be the most aggravating part. And I remember like saying, come on, judge, come out to the car, come out to the parking lot and take a look at the car for yourself. And you tell me if you think you could see something sticking out, from behind this, panel. He wouldn't go. So to me, it was like the police officers saying someone gave consent, for example, when they didn't. It's like, I mean, I understand like the difference between if it's a police officer testifying against someone as compared to a civilian witness, like in a domestic violence situation. It's like there's like a bias and a motive you could build into like a domestic, maybe someone's trying to get some leverage on a divorce case or something like this.
Mm-hmm.
But with the cops, if they're just making something up, it's like, hey, it's just, I've had cops erase warrants, change warrants with a pencil, where an expert witness would have to come in and say, this warrant's been altered. I've had like subpoenaed cell phone records and cell phone tower hits to show that it couldn't have happened the way that the cop said that it did.
Hmm.
So I see this routinely, like, in different degrees. And what's unfortunate, Bruce, is just like the death penalty cases that get the attention. Think about the burglaries and just like, just a guy who gets up with a felony conviction, just with like a gram of cocaine or something like that they suffered with for years.
So what needs to happen to make the system more inherently fair, in your estimation?
I mean, really, the body cams make a huge difference.
Hmm.
The body cams make a huge difference because you see what reality is. It's like, it used to just be like a police officer saying, this is the way it went down. And now with the body cam, I mean, I've seen cops lie on reports when the body cam, I mean, you saw it with Laquan McDonald. They just, it's like they don't even think about it sometimes. And, and I'm not like an anti-cop guy. I'm like an anti-liar guy. I used to come home with my kids and they tell me some whopper of a story and I'd say, look, people lie to me all day. I want to come home.
Oh, your kids don't lie. They never lied. Come on. I hope they don't watch this. I hope they don't watch this. Just for the record, I defended them.
They were very young.
Okay.
Because every story would have to have a moral, like, it's like...
That's very fun. All right, so the cams, the body cams. What else would make the system inherently fair in your mind?
I mean, I have seen a big change in the Cook County State's Attorney's Office as far as when I started to where it is now. It's a work in progress. I think that the attorneys now are more concerned about making sure that things are done the right way. I don't think there's like a whole big conversation about let's screw somebody over kind of thing. Let's make sure we win. Because some of the stuff I used to hear that went on, even when I was just starting out, was just like, I could see where the culture, came from. And I think there's a big improvement, but I think it's got a long way to go. And a huge difference, I think, is who's been hired. I mean, when I joked before that I didn't want to do a resume, when I just got out of law school, is because there was just a certain kind of people who were getting hired for those positions. And I wasn't one of them. It's like I wasn't going to, it was either you had to be either like, from a certain neighborhood or certain, have some political connection, or really when I started off, you could play softball, you could make the state's attorney. If you could play on the state's attorney softball team, you could get hired. And so there's a big difference now in that I'm not kidding.
I know you're not kidding. Just be if you bat left, it's even better. And it's the 16-inch ball league, not the
Yeah.
mid league, right? Of
Oh,
course, right?
oh yeah. But I mean, it's more diverse for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I've dealt with some prosecutors in the last month, and if I've dealt with 6 of them, probably 4 of them are minorities,
Mm,
and which is a huge difference.
yeah.
Now, does that mean it's going to be changed down, as things go on? I mean, I think so, because I think they bring their personal experiences and their family's personal experiences with them. And I hope, I just want it to be fair, Bruce. I don't care if I lose. I've lost so many cases, I can't even begin to tell you, because the facts are bad. I got bad cases. I can lose, but I don't mind if I lose for the right reasons and in the right way.
You really are a Cubs fan. Um,
We're going to have a conversation about that off the record.
well, yeah, I'd like to get into that too in a minute. So this fairness thing, you keep coming back to this fairness thing and this fairness thing. And when I think of people at Hakafa who are so Jewish, right? And just who and what they are, I think of Betsy Hersher with her spitting every time she says something, pooey pooey. I think of Bibi, who is so incredibly, she's our Yiddish mama. There's a few people that I think of, and when I think of men in our congregation who are so inherently Jewish, one of the first people who comes to my mind is you. You are such this Jew, right? So and part of it is that sense. It's some of it's your affect and the way that, and part of it is Rogers Park and the deli food but it's also this. Talk to me about the sense of fairness and justice and rightness and righteousness without being self-righteous. Talk to me about your sense of Judaism and how that plays into who and what you are, if at all.
A lot of it has to do with the people I'm friends with. And not all of them, but, a fair amount of them. And, we grew up together. These are guys from my grammar school in high school who I'm still friends with. It's the grammar school guys who are like more Jewish, than me. And, I'm sort of like in the middle of like our group of friends. And
What
to
do you mean
me,
by more Jewish, though? What do you mean by that?
they can read the Hebrew a lot better than I
That
can.
makes you more Jewish? Okay.
I mean, I'll give you like, it's funny because it's Carolyn's bat mitzvah. When it came time, you asked a couple of my buddies if they wanted to like read the Kaddish at the beginning. They're like, yeah, we got it. Don't worry. It's like, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, no problem. We'll do it. I think like from a fairness perspective, that like the group of people I'm friends with, we're all the same thing as far as like fair. Like nobody wants to screw anybody over. Everybody wants to do things the right way. But some are just more Jewish about it than others. So, probably I want to be treated fairly. And so if I'm fighting for someone else to be treated fairly, there's going to be some trickle down effect for me, benefit for me too. I might spit and say pooey pooey too. I'm very superstitious about things like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that like really answers your question, but it's like, I just have become more Jewish probably in a lot of ways as far as like what I eat. I'm just saying, it's been a long time since I had a sausage pizza. It's got to be like 20 years or something, maybe.
Really? I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, it was actually the movie.
You gave it up for Lent.
No, it was a Clinton Tarantino with John Travolta and
Yeah. The whatchamacallit one. Yeah. I was just talking to that with Noah about that recently. Yeah. Anyhow, go ahead.
and so in that movie, it's like Samuel Jackson. It's like I'm not going to eat bacon. I'm not going to eat food of an animal that eats its own feces. I'm like, yeah, why would I? It's like, I just, so I think it's more like a, I just want to do the right thing for as much as I can. So.
Your brother's family was at Beth Emmet, right?
My brother and his
Your,
family were
or
Bethel.
Beth Emmet. Did you
We
grow
were
up at
there
a,
with
did you grow up at a synagogue?
Temple Mitzvah in
You
Rogers
did.
Park.
Okay, that became Judea mitzvah. You became a bar mitzvah there.
Yes.
Okay, so you moved up here. That kind of answers the question. I'm going to ask it anyhow. So why belong to a congregation? Why engage? If you're so inherently Jewish in the way you live your life, just by eating borscht and talking the way that you do and having this sense of fairness, why? And this is not designed to tell us how wonderful Hakafah is. I don't want that. I want a sense of why you. I just made that assumption, right? I want to. What's the need for you to be involved in a congregational community?
I don't know if it's a need or just a want. Can I give you a little history about that?
No, of course. What do you mean? Go ahead.
So when Jackie and I were married, Jackie converted with Rabbi Kudan, as we learned on a Shabbat like a few
That's right.
months
When you
ago.
when he showed up, it was great seeing him. Yeah,
And but Am Shalom, was that the name of his synagogue?
yeah.
They wouldn't let us join because they had too many people. They were too full. And so we just sort of like went, okay, we did nothing until Stephanie was born. And Stephanie begot 2, 3, 4 years old, whatever. And Jackie's like, hey, I converted. What's that? Let's get going on here. What was the point of that? And so we joined Beth Emmet because my brother worked in the nursery school, the preschool there. And, Beth Emmet was, we lasted there long enough to pay off our building fund
Mm-hmm.
responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as we paid off the building fund, we came to Hakafah because we had more friends belonging to Hakafah. And, Jackie's very tight with her girls at Hakafah. She did her bat mitzvah, like what, 8 or 9 years ago, maybe?
I think 10 now, even. Yeah.
He's still tight with those girls. They get together,
The bat,
still.
the bat mitzvah class that scared the bejeebers out of me. Yes. The only class I ever really lost, right? I lost that one. I keep saying that. Even when I think of them all still together, it just makes me so go, ah!
Yeah, you were very brave to fight for
Such a
that.
fantastic group of women. Fantastic. And your wife, I tell you all the time how much I adore her. She is
He's
just
the best.
one of the sweetest, most genuine, beautiful people.
The best.
What's she doing with you? So you guys came over here, and what's the motivation of still wanting to? I mean, your kids became B'nai Mitzvah, and other than the fact that you get to drive me around and we go to eat bad food together all the time, right? I never get to, most people when we go out to eat want to eat good food. One of the reasons why I like going out with you is because we both like going to eat bad food. So
Give me a
that's,
grilled cheese, please.
oh my God. So why still, what's the connection still? As a
Well,
Jew, just as a Jew, what's that for you?
I've always been connected to a synagogue in one way or another. Even when I was in the years after college till I got married, my dad would always be a member at Judea Mitzvah. And we'd always go to the high holiday services and we'd always do the yard sites and, like that. And I mean, Bruce, what do you want me to say? A lot of it's you,
Don't
come
say
on.
that. Don't say that.
No,
The
it's like,
check's in the mail.
I
But
mean, I'm under oath here, aren't I?
no, no. Be fair. You're not. This is about fairness. Go ahead.
I mean, from my perspective, it's like, I mean, a lot of it's you. Okay, I'll put it like that. I can't imagine another rabbi who would put up with me on a golf course. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, but we've only been in the driving range. We're still waiting to go on the golf course.
No, we played at Jan's.
Oh my God, we played at Jan's. That's right. It was horrible. I put that one out. It was so awful. Oh my God, I had one of the worst rounds of my life. Oh my God, it was horrible.
You took it well.
That's right. No, I forgot about. Oh my God, that was so horrible. I mean,
You
being
were
with you was great.
bad, but you're still better than me.
We have to go again. We have to
But
go again.
but also like, yeah, I'll go tomorrow if you want to go.
Yeah, I'm busy. This week I'm kind of busy with the holidays, but
I
you
get it.
know.
Because we've gone right before the holidays.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we've discussed potential sermons.
Sermons.
you know,
I still need one for Saturday. You got one for me?
off the record, okay.
Off the record.
And
Off
you know,
the,
no, Bruce, really, Jackie is like, she's in deeper than I am
yeah.
when it comes to Hakafat.
Yeah.
I mean, she really is. She's so happy there. And, you know, it's like, we're trying to get new members. I'm working on like two, I told you, there's like, a guy I know, like a young guy who's looking to join.
Good.
And, like,
We'll take them.
he knows that.
um,
He'll be
so
thrilled.
given this love of really of being Jewish and of the community, what do you see for your daughters in terms of that?
I remember. I mean, you've had more contact with Carolyn
Yeah.
because Stephanie was bat mitzvah at, Beth Emmet,
Hmm.
and we left shortly thereafter, because my brother died, the connection was gone, and we never really felt, that community feel that we have at Hakafah. So I'm laughing because I remember Carolyn coming home from Sunday school one day.
Yeah, you told me
I
this.
told you this.
Oh my God, I had to stop it a couple years after that because of her, because I couldn't do it anymore. Go ahead. Go
Carolyn
ahead.
came home from Sunday school one day, and she's like, "Yeah, Rabbi Elder asked us if we thought that our parents, I don't remember if it was wanted or expected us to marry a Jewish person." And I said, "What'd you say, Carolyn?" And she said, "I said no." And I said, "What are you talking about?" But she's in a great relationship and she's very happy. So we hope for the best for them. Where do I see them going? Stephanie should be in Israel.
Mm.
Stephanie did birthright. I mean, this is a father who still believes in arranged marriages, by the way. Is
What if
that
you had
Jewish enough for you?
what if you had sons? Would you do it for them too? Would you believe in it for sons too?
Probably.
Okay, I hope so. Good. Okay, because you can get in big trouble for that. But go ahead.
No, I said probably. Okay.
Okay, go
Does
on.
that make me more Jewish if I still believe in arranged marriages for my daughter?
I'm not touching that, Barry. You know that. So you think she should be in Israel because of what? Why do you say that?
Because she's really a Jew at heart.
Hmm.
I mean, Carolyn is too. Carolyn is like, they're both like Jewish all the way. But Stephanie, I think, would really benefit from more Jewish friends. She doesn't have any.
Hmm.
And I mean, where do I see them going? I see them right now very scared about where things are at and how things are going in this country. Talking with Carolyn yesterday about like her fears about what's going on politically here, watching these rallies that are still going on. You know,
Yeah.
and she pays attention. She like pays attention. Stephanie's working in a COVID hospital, a lot of the time, and so she's got her own, concerns. And she's living in Arizona, which is not, the same environment as here. So, I don't know where they go. They're both pretty young, really, in the big scheme of things, 32 and 28. And, I just realized a long time ago, like 2, 3 years ago, that as long as they're happy, I got to be happy. And it's almost like a mantra that I have to just keep reminding myself that if they're happy, I'm happy. And I mean, I hope that for the best for them. What I told Carolyn yesterday is that my biggest regret about this pandemic going on now, not
Mhm.
regret, but what I'm missing the most is the experiences that we had as a family.
Mm.
I realized like 2 years ago that things were like really spinning out of control. And I didn't know where it was going to go. And I wanted to do things, go places, do things as a family, because I knew those memories would never go away.
Mm.
Everything else could go away, but the memories wouldn't go away. And now we can't do that. And I'm looking forward to being able to do that, sometime soon.
So I think that's a good place to start wrapping up. That wasn't the question that I had thought that she came home with you. I remembered another one that I had to change. I still ask the question every so often about your parents and grandparents expect you to marry someone Jewish. I remember the one that I had to stop doing with the confirmation class was I used to bring them into the sanctuary at the church and tell them, and I remember that Carolyn freaked out over this one, telling one of many, telling them that when I started here, since my office was in the church a long time ago, I started believing that Jesus was the Messiah, and I never told them that. And did that affect? I just wanted to get them a sense of an idea of, does it matter what I believe or what I taught? And I kept going at this until they were convinced that I actually believed that I believed that Jesus was the Savior. And then I said, of course, I really don't believe that, but it led to a conversation of this faith versus action. And I remember when I did that with her class, and she was one of them, she did not like that. That's what I thought you were going to remind me of.
Yeah,
But you're,
I never heard that one. You must have really scared her with that one.
but let me say, but bring it back to what you said as a way of bringing this to a close. I think what you said about memories is really important and really beautiful. And you're right. I've been thinking and contemplating a lot around the ideas of things we lose in the pandemic, things we've lost, and things we've shed. Right? There's a lot of stuff we've lost and a lot of things that we've learned that we needed to lose, and I've taken the opportunity to do so. And the flip, things we've gained and things, that we should be gaining. And so when it comes down to it, what's really important? And to be able to share in those memories together, I think is really beautiful. So for nothing else, thanks for sharing in this and for taking me through this with you and all this. And I wish you a Shana Tova, Happy New Year. And I'm looking forward to us getting some good food together in person. You're the best. I
You're
love
the
you.
best, man.
So love you a lot.
Seriously, Shana Tova, Friday night, and
Okay, good. Be
so
well.
next year,
Everybody? Oh, say what?
I just want to say what Judge Stein used to say is in the new year, he'd say, Barry, as long as next year is no worse than this year, we'll be fine.
I think we need a little bit more than that. Thank you. I thought you were going to say next year in Jerusalem, and I was going to say next year at the church, which is kind of ironic. So with that, that brings to a close this episode of Points in the Circle. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care, Barry.